Feels like every time we get a new Kia, the design jumps out at us in a very good way, as cars like this new EV6 prove. It looks like a concept car that was designed too well. So the people in charge said, make that. And so Kia did, and that's good news for the rest of us. Even better, it's great to drive too. This is the first vehicle built on Kia's new eGMP platform. It's their EV-focused platform. It's also the first shot fired under their new ambitious Plan S, which looks to build 11 electric vehicles globally by the year 2026. It's a fast timeline, but we're moving in the right direction. It looks great. The nose has a tight aggressiveness, the shape of the fenders is pumped up, and that ducktail at the back adds a racy feel to the whole thing. Especially I like how the lower trim rises to create the ducktail. The 19-inch wheels come standard, but the GT line E all-wheel drive gets 20s. Now, one thing I did find funny during the presentation, Kia was excited to talk about all the color options you have, and there are a few, but there's also 2 different whites and 3 different grays. Inside, there's tons of room, and Kia uses recycled or environmentally smart materials. And if you need a nap while you're charging on the road, the seats recline to flat. Ahead of the driver, there are dual curved displays, and the infotainment runs Kia's newest Kia Connect system. This means you can monitor charging status from a smartphone or your watch. With respect to power and driven wheels, you do have a few options. There's the base model called the Light Rear-Wheel Drive, which utilizes a 58 kilowatt-hour battery pack and a single 168 kilowatt motor at the rear. The range is a bit over 230 miles and it makes 167 horsepower. The other 2 trims are the Wind and the GT line, and each is available as a single motor rear drive model or dual motor all-wheel drive version, and they all use a 77.4 kilowatt-hour battery pack. The Wind and GT line rear-wheel drive use the same 168 kilowatt motor out back, but see 310 miles of range and 225 horsepower. The more entertaining versions are the Wind and GT line E all-wheel drive, which use a 165 kilowatt rear motor and 74 kilowatt front motor. Your range dips to 274 miles, but your power jumps to 320 horsepower and 446 pound-feet of torque. And you can earn back range fairly easily since the EV6 can be charged on a 350 kilowatt charger. That will net you 217 miles of range in just 18 minutes. On a level 2 charger, the EV6 will charge from 10 to 100% in just over 7 hours. There's a 10.9 kilowatt onboard charger. So I spent most of my morning driving an E all-wheel drive version, and now I'm in a rear-wheel drive version, and I'm driving on roads that are really fun, but not in the best shape. This road right here has bumps and stuff like that, and there's something rattling. That's not the car. I want to clear that up. That's not the car. But the ride is comfortable. The steering feel is great, and I'm really impressed with how this drives because it's not like it's some sporty EV, but it's fun, and it has different driving modes. It just starts in a normal. If I hit the button, I'm now in sport. There's also an eco. There's also a snow mode too. In the all-wheel drive versions, it moves the torque around, and if you're in snow mode, it actually does a 50-50 front-rear split. But again, this is a rear-wheel drive one, so in sport, it makes the throttle just the tip-in, I guess you would say, the responsiveness a little bit better. The steering, there's a little bit more heft to it, but the steering feel is really good. I expected it to be kind of lifeless and boring, and it's not the case, and this chassis lends itself to some entertaining driving. Especially in the all-wheel drive version, I found myself coming out of some corners and it's like it wanted to rotate. It is a rear bias system. The more powerful, heavier motor is at the back, and so it just wants to go.
Continue
so
current
I just
road
gave it some goose coming out of there. Goose to the throttle a little bit coming out of there, but this is not like some lightning fast electric vehicle. It's just, and we don't need just an onslaught of crazy overpowered EVs with insane torque numbers. Yes, those are tons of fun, but this is the type of EV that someone...
Continue on current road for about 11 miles.
This is the type of EV for someone who just wants a good daily driver vehicle. And it is that, and it happens to look awesome on the outside. I really like these seats. I'm not a huge leather seat guy. The one things I don't like are to get to the climate control. I don't know a fast way to get there except going through touch-based menus here, and you have to take your eyes off the road. Well, so when you change it to climate, some stuff pops up at the bottom now. It does, okay, when you hit the climate button, it changes the buttons that are displayed here in this display. And I didn't know that until I just did it, and that's actually kind of cool because it was getting warm in the cabin. I'm trying to turn it down a bit, and now we got some cool air coming back. So if I hit home and up here on the screen, I go back to map, those controls are there. Oh, I see. There's a button here. God, you think I would know how to do my job. There's a button that switches between like radio controls and climate controls. I take back what I said. That's actually really well done for a touch-based system. I prefer actual like real buttons and knobs, but that's really well done. We'll have shots so it covers that up. I wish I knew to tell you that beforehand. Back to driving experience though. This car does have paddles, and what those paddles alter is the regen braking. There are essentially 4 levels plus a mode called iPedal. There's 0, which is like coasting, 1, 2, 3, more aggressive, 3 is pretty aggressive, and then if you hold the left paddle once you're in 3, it enters iPedal mode, and that's akin to 1 pedal driving. It really slows you down. I'm in 2 right now, and if I lift off the gas, it slows me down, but if I go to 3, I can feel it slowing me way more down. So it is effective in that it has very different regen modes. They're not that close together. They clearly have different feel behind the wheel. And I really like 2 and 3 in the morning portion of my drive, because I'm up here north of Napa and Sonoma, and there are some great roads. I'm not on one at the moment because I'm stuck behind 2 cars, but there are some great roads where you can really push a vehicle, and if you put the regen into 2 or 3, you can set up for corners without having to go to the brakes, let the car drag some friction brakes a little bit, and you're also then putting more juice back into the batteries potentially, as long as you're not rocketing out of the corners, which, you know, I may or may not have done. But just cruising around, it's very comfortable. The seats are comfortable. There's good visibility. This lets in some good light into the back. There's great room in the back seat, though someone was in this car before me and left this in here, which I just found, which is kind of gross. Clean your stuff up, people. Seats good, visibility good, driving experience is far better than I expected. And then there's a host of other great features baked into this if you go high enough up in the spec. This has an augmented reality head-up display, which kind of projects your corner on the head-up display in front of you. It's not as slick as the Mercedes system, but it's decent. The one in the Mercedes cars is amazing. This one is neat. I'll leave it at that. Kia says this thing can tow 2,300 pounds, which is kind of fascinating. I want to see someone tow, you know, like an electric go-kart or something behind it to a go-kart track. That'd be kind of fun. Now, in the all-wheel drive one, I was on curvier roads, and I felt there's just enough body roll to keep you on your toes and remind you that it's not a sports car, but it otherwise is cornering pretty flat. So it sets up nicely, and then there's some interesting movement of the torque moving around in the system in the all-wheel drive version as you're going through a corner very quickly. You can have a lot of fun in this. You can hustle it. You can also outdrive the brakes if you're being a maniac, because they're not like really aggressive brake pads. So just something to keep in mind if you are into enthusiastically driving down a canyon road. But as a commuter vehicle and then an occasional fun machine, this checks a lot of boxes. Kia offers a feature on this car called V2L, or Vehicle to Load. You can use or charge other devices with a special plug via the charge port. So how much does this silent style machine actually cost? Well, a base light rear-wheel drive model is $42,115, and that's before the $7,500 federal tax credit. The Wind rear-wheel drive is $48,215, while the Wind E all-wheel drive is $52,115. If you want to jump to the GT line, you start at $52,415 and $57,115 for rear-wheel drive and all-wheel drive respectively. And again, those prices are all before considering the $7,500 you'll get back if you buy one of these. And there might be state incentives as well, plus carpool access depending on where you live. It would be nice if a lot of the top shelf safety features were available at the base level, but you need to go to a loaded Wind E all-wheel drive tech package. Regardless, the Kia EV6 is an excellent offering in the EV space. It looks good inside and out, it's a fun car to drive, and once you factor in federal tax credits, it's priced really well. And this is Kia's first shot to get serious in this market. We're on the right track.